resonate with people from all sectors of
Okay,
society. So you can,
okay.
Any other thoughts around the floor?
Just one more thing, is that one of the reasons why it's not, Yvonne talks about this too, is a different conception of leadership, is that people vote with their feet. And there was multiple cores all coming up with different DNA in Serbia at the same time. And actually they broke apart, the movement broke apart, and in Ukraine there was 2 decentralized organizations with different cores, and that they had a great relationship with each other. It was like green, it was yellow Pora versus red Pora, I don't know. It was, but they actually had even the same brand, or a different brand, but same name. So what we're talking in a decentralized organizational structure, it's actually very empowering to give somebody a DNA, and they get to vote with their feet about which one they want to join. Okay? And we actually, there's no competition here. We want all of you to develop cores and launch DNA. And that helps everyone. That's the whole ecosystem is better. Because there's Occupy, it's created room for a lot of other people. Okay? So it's not like the hierarchical vision of power of the vanguard is that there's only one vanguard, right? But in this case, there is one movement that uses the same DNA, the same structure to keep it unified, but there could be a lot of different organizations that are decentralized.
Let's continue, so we can get to lunch.
Should we just go to lunch?
no, that's the next part of the DNA. It's random articles.
Mass training. Well, we already talked about this, right? With the we're gonna have a whole session on this. You want to do one?
A little bit. So people in this, like Sam and in my tradition, there's a lot of mass trainings that are out there. It's part of the Momentum tradition. They're mass trainings. I've done tons of nonviolence trainings. And generally those are 2 to 4 hour trainings. Okay? The Serbians did 40,000 people, went through a whole week long from 2 to 3 hours for an entire week, plus an initiation action. And that
2 to 3 hours a day.
A day, 2 to 3 hours a day for a week, which was it would be calculated around 21 hours of work of training, because the complexity of the DNA cannot be put in a 2 to 4 hour thing. And everyone who became a member and would formalize a team had to go through that training. If you didn't, you couldn't join a team. Okay, that is a different conception. That means that with the mass training, they give you the whole DNA. They give you the grand strategy. They give you everything in the movement. They give you the whole package in an initiation training so that you can go out and run and do everything from the first day that you're initiated. Go ahead.
Or you can say, I'm not feeling it, and peace out, and then form your own thing.
That's right. So the grand strategy, we already went over this. The grand strategy is not, and what Bill Moyer says, sometimes it doesn't even include the method. Sometimes it's just picking a popular demand that you can polarize around, and then letting the movement emerge with campaigns and with methods of enforcing it. Like the anti-nuclear movement in the 70s and 80s actually did that. They created so much active popular support against nuclear power that there was an informal moratorium against nuclear power for decades. It's starting to be undermined. And a lot of that was enforced through decentralized active popular support. So, but the Serbians gave a model that was actually a much more detailed, right? A much more detailed grand strategy. And so you can do a vague one, you can do a more specific one, but the concept of the grand strategy is not detailed, that it gives a lot of autonomy. It allows people to do a lot of things. It's a big sandbox, but it allows for strategic unity around our theory of change. 80% of the problems have to do with conflicting theories of change. Nonviolent discipline, okay. This is the biggest challenge of nonviolent movements. Everybody in the field of civil resistance, including Gandhi, Martin Luther King, all these people said the biggest challenge of the movement is to maintain nonviolent discipline. When I'm doing a train to the labor movement, they say, what are you talking about? Nonviolent, none of the workers want to throw mocktail cocktails. Who cares about nonviolent discipline? We can't even get workers to even get close to a general strike. Why would they take the risk of like throwing a punch at their boss, right? That's not gonna happen. But actually, you have to predict that it is gonna happen. Because once you have moments of the whirlwind, and once you have trigger events and people start getting beaten, the global justice movement, we had 2 martyrs, 2 people killed by the police, okay? This is serious stuff. I had friends that went into jail and was beaten and terrorized and had post-traumatic stress syndrome from being beaten by cops. Good friends of mine, okay? That's some serious stuff. Am I angry about that? Was I angry? Yes, I was. Okay? That's going to happen. That is going to happen. If you don't have nonviolent discipline as part of your DNA from the beginning and it's super strong and you have a whole process of dealing with it, you will lose control. And there's very little doubt. It happens in it happened in the global justice movement, it happened in ACT UP, it happened in, you name it, it happens. Gandhi, in his autobiography, has a chapter. He calls it the Himalayan miscalculation. He says it's the biggest failure of his life. He almost died hunger striking against his own people because they lost nonviolent discipline. And he realized that he lost control and the DNA was violent. He had to fast, stop the movement, and take 10 years to develop the DNA to launch again because he lost nonviolent discipline.
He almost died.
Just real quick, being in Occupy, we had a lot of conversations about nonviolence. I think the thing that's most key to this theory and like the idea of nonviolence is that it encourages participation, right? Like that's really like the central thing is that if things become violent, it becomes riskier for people to get involved, and so and you lose legitimacy for people who would potentially support the movement. So that's like really why nonviolent discipline is so critical in this framework.
And if you want to explore it more, we would encourage you to watch, to study the work of Erica Chenoweth, which is the one who came up with the 3.5% statistic for research is all about like how violence and nonviolence impacts participation, and she unpacks it in like really detailed and thorough and like empirical ways.
I'll just say, if you lose nonviolent discipline, all this theory does not work. And the reason why is because what we said, isolate your opposition, get the public support, and energize the base, you will do exactly the opposite. I guarantee, in the United States of America, if you do property destruction or violence, I guarantee you will isolate yourself, you will mobilize a majority against you, and you will de-energize your base. You might energize a subculture of people who are really engaged with it, but you will lose the base to expand. You will lose the base. They will, in the global justice movement, once people started throwing Mocktail cocktails, all of a sudden we had less people show up to the meetings. We had a lot more people show up that were super anarchist affiliated and very countercultural, but we lost. Churches didn't want to show up to meetings anymore. We couldn't get unions involved. Like a huge portion of our base was isolated from those tactics.
And I also just want to frame that this is separate from the conversation about whether violence is morally okay or whether it's justified. That's a different conversation. And also, like, obviously, probably a lot of us are engaged in populations that feel extremely morally justified in the use of violence. And there's a lot of writing and interesting work on the role of violent left flanks, and there's a lot of interesting work on the role of riots and all of that. Within the framework of this, nonviolent discipline is critical because it's about mass participation, and I think that's where it's coming from. Not about whether or not it's justified or right or wrong or what the role of that is. In terms of mass numbers of people able to participate consistently and feel safe, that's part of what we're.
And some people even study this concept of understanding for participation. It's like, do you even have the military equipment for people to take struggle? It's like, because most people in nonviolence, they don't need anything but their bodies to go out. But if you're going to carry armed struggle, people need weapons, people need military training and preparation. So it's a level of participation that sometimes, even if people want to participate violently, they're like, how can I do it? Where's my gun? Where's it? It's, I mean, outside, I'm talking strategically, outside of whether it's right or wrong. within violence or nonviolence. We're just talking in the context of participation.
Che Guevara met with David Dillinger, a nonviolent activist that studies this stuff. And Che Guevara said, if you're in the United States, you should not run a guerrilla movement. You should do nonviolent struggle. Che Guevara said that to David Dillinger. You are crazy to mount a guerrilla war in the United States of America. The guy who one of my mentors at school was this guy, Iqbal Ahmad, who is one of the leading guerrilla war strategists in the world. He was part of the Algerian Revolution and taught guerrilla war strategy. And he was actually the greatest proponent of nonviolence, both because it was effective, and number two, he says, guerrilla war sucks. Okay, it really sucks. It's sometimes effective in some contexts, yes, but it sucks, okay? And there's no reason in our context that we could, it's not, believe me, none of this works if you lose nonviolent discipline.
Team, let's take a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath. So we are a couple minutes from lunch, and I want to do a quick stop here because there's also much we can digest at the same time. So I want us to go find a person that. So listen up. You know what's up? Let's close this thing in a very old manner. Listen up. Perfect. Let's form a little circle. Perfect. Let's do a little stretch. Up. Reach to your acupuncture support. Good. Go down to your base. Go to the right. Escalate the shit out of everything you can. And go to the left and absorb the momentum by giving somebody a massage.
Mutual aid.
Yeah, I know, I was like, it's not, we really like the conga lines.
I keep thinking you're later from behind too. And you're wearing kind of